Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's great to have you here today. We'll get started in just a minute while more people join in. I can see that number is going up. And while we wait, please feel free to share in the chat box where you are joining us from. Always good to see how global our audience is. London, nice. Houston, Kent, amazing. Calgary, Toronto, Greece, Mexico, New York, truly a global audience we have today. The list is moving faster than I can read. I guess that's a good thing. Boston, Egypt, Paris, France. Welcome, everyone. Florida, Miami, Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's nice. Hello from Mauritius. Hello to you too. All right, it seems like we have got good people in. So let's start the webinar officially. Once again, a very warm welcome to everyone joining us for today's session, which is a part of our In the Know Beroe Product Showcase webinar series. Today's topic is navigating inflation in a world of volatility. And over the next 1 hour, we'll see how procurement can move from firefighting cost changes to building a smarter, more strategic approach to inflation management. I'm Sunny Makhija, Associate Director of Product Marketing at Beroe, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. Just a few quick things before we jump in. The session is being recorded and we'll share the recording with you afterward. If you have any questions during the webinar, please do put them in the Q&A box. The Q&A icon is located at the bottom of your screen and we'll address your questions towards the end. Lastly, we'll also run a couple of quick polls during the session. So please do participate when those pop up. It's a great way to make the session more dynamic and reflect what practitioners like you are seeing on the ground. Now, coming to our experts, we have two fantastic speakers with us today, Shailesh Bhadauria and Hemant Bansal. I'll hand it over to them for quick introductions. Shailesh, maybe let's start with you first and then Hemant can go next.
Thanks, Sunny. Hi, everyone. So I'm Shailesh. I have 2 decades of experience in research analytics. I have been helping firm on the inflation, how they manage more effectively so that they understand how they can avoid unnecessary cost, as well as manage, bring cost savings to the organizations. It's nice to meet everybody.
Thanks, Shailesh. Hello, everyone. I'm Hemant Bansal, Principal Product Manager at Beroe, leading our portfolio of cost intelligence and inflation management products. I have 14 years worth of experience working at the intersection of procurement advisories and digital technologies to develop new solutions based on customer needs. Over the last many years, I have led team developing statistical.
Hemant, I think you have gone on mute.
Sorry, is it better now?
Yeah, can hear you now. Sorry, we missed the last part. Maybe you
Okay.
can repeat that if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. So over the last year, basically, I launched an AI-powered commodity intelligence platform and partnered with multiple Fortune 500 organizations, including an end-to-end delivery of a $3 billion worth of spend inflation management program for a global pharmaceutical company. Nice to have you, joining this session today.
Great. Thank you, Shailesh and Hemant. Great to have you both here. Uh, Now coming to our topic. Inflation continues to be one of the biggest challenges for procurement and finance teams everywhere. Input costs are rising, budgets are tightening, and volatility has more or less become the new baseline for planning. As a matter of fact, managing inflation is one of the top priorities for CPOs, as per many surveys out there. Yet, many teams are still reacting to inflation rather than managing it proactively. We often see that the data sits in silos, it's outdated, contract terms are not aligned with market shifts, teams aren't just sure how to connect the dots. And all of this makes it really difficult for the business to see the full picture. And that's exactly the gap we'll be discussing today and how leading organizations are changing that. So, what you can expect from this session. We'll begin with understanding why inflation management has become a strategic priority, not just to control costs, but also to strengthen business resilience and performance. And we'll see this through various use cases. Then we'll explore how organizations can move from being reactive to proactive and get a comprehensive visibility through a dual lens approach. Then we'll see how these two lenses, market inflation and contract inflation, work in practice and actually complement each other. And throughout the session, our experts will share actionable insights and real world examples that will help you manage inflation with confidence. With that, I'll hand it over to Shailesh, who'll start by walking us through why inflation is such a multi-dimensional challenge for procurement. Over to you, Shailesh.
Yeah, thanks, Sunny. So, as my colleague said, the agenda for today, we are continuously seeing inflationary pressure right across the globe, and a lot of our clients are kind of reaching out to understand how they can better gauge the inflation, and it is because there is a continuous pressure on inputs cost, whether it's a raw material or electricity or a labor. There remains a lot of uncertainty on budget, and hence they are not able to effectively plan and understand what could be the cost spikes that they can expect next year. And there is continuously a supply disruption scenario, which started with the COVID, then happened Russia-Ukraine thing, and now still continue to happen because of tariffs and other situation. And if you look at why the effective inflation management matters to the organizations, because it helps them on three critical pillars from an organization standpoint. One of them being strategic planning. Then every organization do budget planning, but how to do it more effectively becomes very critical to an organization. So if they would know how much they need to carve out as a budget for next year, and they not run into any shortfalls. Similarly, though you are able to gauge inflation at categories, but it's also very important that you understand and pass on this to the sales organization so they can accordingly price their end products and services. And it helps ensure the bottom line for the organization. From a financial control and risk perspective, it also brings a lot of opportunities for organizations to control the cost in the supplier negotiation and manage those more effectively. Further, from a risk standpoint, you would know if you are expecting certain hikes because of certain events, you can plan contingencies and different scenarios to help you manage more effectively. Last but not the least, it brings a lot of procurement efficiency for the organizations to help you take strategic sourcing decisions and manage your contracts effectively. Further, the supply negotiations can be more transparent, more fact-based, which can help you understand and justify the price increases. Sunny, I think it's the time to take a quick poll. So
yeah, I think that's a great idea, Shailesh. Let's make this a bit interactive and have a quick poll. You'll see it on your screen anytime now. Please take a few seconds to vote, and we'll close the poll in about 30 to 40 seconds. So it is, which inflation-related challenge has impacted your procurement function the most recently? Rising supplier prices and margin pressure, unpredictable budgeting or cost forecasting, limited visibility into contract terms, lack of timely market intelligence, or aligning procurement, finance, and various other teams, and others. And in case you choose others, please do put that in the chat box. It will be good to see what you have in mind. I can clearly see a winner emerging, but the bar is changing continuously. Maybe just wait for 10 more seconds and then we can close the poll. I think we have got a result here. I can clearly see it. So let's end the poll now. So clearly, rising supplier prices and margin pressure has emerged as the top option here. 58% folks have voted for it, and it's not surprising in my opinion. Supplier hikes have been hitting margins hard across most industries, especially where cost drivers are volatile. Hemant, let me come to you for this one. What's your take on these results and how these challenges are impacting organizations you speak with?
Yeah, thanks, and yes, exactly. If I would have been allowed, I would have voted for the same rising supply prices and margin pressure, because this is exactly what I've been hearing across most categories lately. The pressure on margins is forcing teams to rethink their cost models, how they build the cost models, how they engage with their suppliers to get to know the cost structures, and negotiates far more. And the negotiations are actually happening far more frequently. So I completely relate to this particular results that forecasting or rising prices have really becoming a pain point in many organizations' policies.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hemant, for your perspective. Shailesh, let's continue from where we left off. Back to you.
Thanks, Sunny. So I think it's important to understand why in many cases the traditional way of inflation management is not working. Because in many cases it's reactive budgeting, which does not take care of the changing scenario from a market perspective. All those processes still remains manual in nature, which are bigger, larger Excel files, which could become very difficult to understand and it's more error prone. There is always a limited cost availability because of the global situations of the firms, and they don't understand how the price is going to behave in a certain direction. The data rest in siloed different formats. It's become very difficult for organization to bring it one place. And of course, it lacks the ability to simulate different situations, whether it's a tariff, whether it's change, doing a sensitivity analysis for as simple as crude oil, any other commodity, which can impact which portfolio, which categories, and hence it is the traditional way is not working anymore. So how Beroe, right, can support, and if you can just go to the next slide, is we try to cover both sides of the coin from an inflation standpoint. One is helping organizations understand the market inflation, which is essentially showing how the costs are shifting in the supplier market where it is operating, whether it's changing of raw materials, energy, labor, logistics, and other macro factors. And what is that impact of change looks like from an inflationary standpoint. While on the other side, as mature firms typically agree certain price mechanisms and adjustment clauses within the contracts, they also need to understand how the price is going to change because of that mechanism for them. Now, those in many cases will be linked to your benchmark indices, could be part of your volume tiers, could have also currency pass-through mechanism. So how you can understand that what my price is going to be after 3 months or 6 months becomes very important. So organization would have a mix of some spend under contract while some remains market. So as an organization, we can provide both perspectives so that organization can have 100% view on how their categories are going to change from a pricing standpoint next year. Now, what we do and what we provide and how we support our clients with, we can give you drill down or inflationary impact view starting from the organization and going from business unit to your region, country, category, subcategory at a supplier level, along with the material impact. So you could see if you are buying different categories while steel remain the core element, what is your dependence as an organization on steel prices is. Similarly, we can help you predict the cost drivers, which in turn will help you understand what is going to be inflation across direct and indirect categories. Further, by connecting that data and refreshing on a every monthly basis, you could have real-time view about how the price is going to change. We also provide a lot of specialized enhancements which help you bring effective contract control by using certain clauses, looking at pricing mechanisms, how they can become more effective in cases where you're continuously witnessing higher inflation while the market prices are declining. We can also support organizations on benchmarking unit cost, whether it's for products, commodities, and services through billing rates, which can help you unlock additional value as a firm. And in case your sources are not working anymore because of either a tariff impact, because of certain geography which is under geopolitical conflict, we can help you change the sourcing location through the mitigation exposure and help you protect the margins in the long term. With this, I'll just hand it over back to Sunny for the next part of the discussion.
Great. Thanks, Shailesh. That was a great breakdown of why inflation needs a structured and strategic response, not just reactionary cost control. And now that we have understood the challenge, let's look at the solution in more detail. I would now like to invite Hemant to walk us through the market inflation lens and how teams are using Inflation Watch for budgeting, supplier negotiations, hedging, among other use cases. Over to you, Hemant.
Thanks, Sunny. Good morning and hello, everyone. Let me start with a simple question. How many of you have faced a situation where supplier prices just shot up out of nowhere and you didn't have the right data, to challenge it? We've all been there, right? Some scrambling through spreadsheets, market reports, and email threads just to figure out, why the prices are moving. So that's exactly the problem, among others, we wanted to solve when we built Inflation Watch, our digital first AI driven platform, designed to help procurement teams and finance teams, to track, forecast, and act on inflation with ease and confidence. So now, before diving into the demo, as you can see on your screen, Inflation Watch solves a wide range of business problems, as you see on the screen, right? So let me briefly summarize them, and highlight how it helps teams in their day-to-day procurement decisions. So for CFOs building budgets, it connects inflation directly to SKUs, regions, and business units. So financial plans are built on reliable and accurate data. For category teams, Inflation Watch, breaks down the cost to the driver level. So if you have ever wondered, how much of my packaging cost is really linked to crude oil or raisins, you will have the answer instantly. And if you want to run what if situations or what if scenarios, say what will happen to my portfolio if copper jumps 8%, you can simulate that as well instantly, helping you to create hedging and pricing strategies. And last but not the least, for CPOs, I would say it highlights categories where inflation will truly hit, right? So you can prioritize decisions with confidence. So the concept is really simple. Instead of reacting to inflation after it hits your P&L, you get to see what's coming, you quantify its impact, and respond efficiently, right? So having said that, now let's look at the interesting part. I would say the platform itself. Allow me a couple of seconds, to share my screen. Uh, and Sunny, can you please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, let's close the other screen sharing while this is active. Okay, I can see your screen now, Hemant.
Okay, perfect.
You can probably minimize the
Yeah,
Zoom window.
yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. So, the platform includes, so this is the homepage of Inflation Watch, right? So the platform includes, powerful capabilities like real-time collaboration on categories, the ability for users to build their own cost structures, and much more. But for today's webinar, we will tie this up to what it actually means for you as a procurement professional when it comes to three core use cases, right? Which is budgeting, negotiation, and hedging. So let's start with budgeting and planning use case, right? And let's say you are a CPO, CFO, or a BU head, or responsible for a major SKU or a category, and you open Inflation Watch. The very first screen you see is your personalized dashboard, giving you a clear summary of the organizational inflation picture. Which categories are going up, which categories are going down, how your total spend is expected to shift month by month. All of this is basically is there in the dashboard. So let's start with the spend inflation chart. So let's say Your company spends $100 million and volume are stable. You know, keeping this in mind, whether you should budget $107 million next year or $95 million, is of paramount importance, right? So this chart, basically spend inflation charts, provide you that, it helps finance to track how your procurement, like overall procurement spend, is expected to evolve over the time for your entire portfolio for all the categories. You can expand it and see the view for the next 12 months. You can also switch between percentage view or the absolute dollar change as well. Further, if you want to tailor or filter the view and you only want to see the spend inflation view for a particular region, for a particular BU or category, you can click the filters, you can click the respective, you can select your particular region or BU, and without any lag, without any data gaps, or without any guesswork, your data will filter out and you will see the spend numbers only for that particular region or as per your selection. So next, let's move to the top items chart. Now this section highlights the categories which are most experiencing the most inflationary or deflationary changes in the portfolio. So this view is particularly useful for identifying immediate cost pressure and, equally importantly, potential saving opportunities. To focus on categories which are facing inflationary pressure, user can click on inflationary and see which categories are driving the inflation, and to see which categories are presenting the cost saving opportunities or experiencing deflationary pressure, user can click on the deflationary button, right? And similar to the spend inflation chart, basically, user can filter out to see, okay, within a particular region, BU, which categories are driving the inflation, right? So this helps procurement teams or CPOs, to act fast and proactively manage their risk across their procurement portfolio, deciding where to renegotiate, where to delay sourcing, or where to lock in the contracts early, right? And last but not the least, you have my portfolio section, which is your personalized watch list with every category you care about, with a simple, red for risk, green for opportunity view, right? Each category is mapped to your business taxonomy, so you can see some identifiers which is 100% customizable to your need, right? It basically relates to your BU, region, SKU, you know, so that it speaks your language and it's not a generic one, right? You can even build supplier specific cost structures into the Inflation Watch platform. Like you can see, I have blister packaging for supplier A as well as blister packaging for supplier B. So keeping it tailored to your business, needs instead of relying on the generic data. So together, this dashboard or homepage, basically for CPOs and CFOs, this becomes, I would say, the single source of truth for budgeting, planning, and cost leadership, conversations across the company. So now let's imagine another real case scenario, and take the second case, which is negotiation. So imagine you are a packaging category manager, right? And your blister packaging spend is about $25 million, with PET making a significant portion of it, right? So one fine day, as you all face, your supplier reaches out proposing a 14% price increase, citing rising raw material costs, right? So naturally, your first question would be, is this increase justified? And second, how can I prepare for the negotiations effectively? Right? So that's where your category dashboards comes into the picture. So it lets you model different scenarios, merge your internal data, so that you can walk into that negotiation with facts. So let's say, to get into the category dashboard, you just have to click the name. In this case, it's blister packaging. And once inside, you will see 5 inflationary views, each offering a different lens on the inflation. And together, they basically become a complete negotiation toolkit for category managers. So let's cover the most important one in detail, and we'll quickly cover the rest of the others as well, right? So let's start with the summary view. That is where everything comes together: market data, your contracts, tariffs, and internal spend data to give you a clear, actionable insights. So each option, like offers a different way to look or explore your inflation data depending on your goal. So in this case, let's say our goal is to get ready for a supplier discussion. So let's click on this particular action, generate a presentation, right? Based on my latest data. So the system will instantly, provide you the latest inflation matrices and charts into ready to use insights, right? So at the top, you will notice a few simple input parameters or fields that can help tailor the insights to your exact situation. You can see start date and end date to define the time period of your analysis. You want to analyze budgeted spend to align the projections with your planned budgets, contract impact and tariff impact to capture supplier locked contracts or negotiations, and the regional tariff changes respectively. So once you enter these values, just click on apply, and within moments basically the system will process your data, helping you to understand the key questions, right? So the first question that system will help you understand is, what would be my total projected spend after factoring in market, contract, tariffs, impacts, right? So this is your first type. Quantify the potential impact on your budget. Instantly gauge the future inflation risk on equally deflationary opportunities. And last, it will also help you identify which cost driver or cost component in your category is driving the particular inflation or a deflation. So this key matrices helps you understand that at the first place. Next to this matrix is the recommendations part. So you will find, this is where system acts like your virtual category advisor, I would say, and helps you answer the question that how you can prepare for the negotiations effectively, right? So it takes care, it process all the data, market, contract, tariff, and uncover both the cost savings and cost avoidance opportunities, as you can see on the screen. So this recommendation section is powered by AI as well as, validated by our expert as well, or category specialist. So it tells you the following things, overall, what is driving your inflation, whether it's market, tariff, or contract, and what you can do about it. In this case, it's tariff, right? Standalone, what market levers you have, to negotiate, right? And what is driving the market inflation or deflation, right? Then it gives you which cost drivers pose the highest inflation or deflation risk, where are the savings or risk mitigation opportunities. It also quantify that, and what specific actions. It gives you a 3 steps recommendations that could make the biggest impact. So these recommendations, update dynamically every time forecast, either the forecast changes by Beroe or you change your inputs, So your insights are always up to date and ready for action in case of any input parameters you put in, right? Next, quickly, you will see a waterfall chart that basically clearly breakdowns and helps you visually understand, how different forces from market to tariff to contracts basically combines to influence your overall budget. And if we scroll down a bit further, it will also give you the driver level impact breakdown table, and this is where you can deep dive into each cost driver contributing to inflation or deflation. It shows the individual impact, forecasted trend, even a summarized market analysis explaining why the driver is moving the way it is, or why the cost component is moving the way it is, right? And it ties back to our original question now on how to validate the supplier's 14% increase request. So within this dashboard, you can actually pinpoint exactly that how much of it is truly justified. So in this example, you might discover that the pet prices have only risen or expected to rise by 3 to 4%, not the 14%, right? So the expected increase or justified increase is not 14%; it would be roughly around 4 to 5%, right? So you see, it will shift the conversations from what's the price, to why is it moving and what can I do about it, right? So this is the most important part where it summarizes everything, preps you up with the supplier negotiations, planning, etc. Coming quickly to the remaining views, these are detailed views feeding into the earlier summary view, right? Providing inflation and spend projection, for next 12 to 18 months at a category level. The cost driver view actually breaks down all the key factors influencing your overall inflation trend for the particular selected category. And market analysis basically, gives you the commentary. So once you select, let's say I want to see why the pet prices are going up or down. If I select this particular region, it will basically gives me what's driving the forecasted change, whether it's policy shifts, supply disruptions, or demand rebounds. It helps you to connect dots between macro trends and category specific outcomes. So this is about the second use case of negotiation, right? Now let's talk about my favorite one, the scenario modeling, and how procurement professionals can use it to answer critical business questions very quickly and confidently. So, in simple terms, to start with, scenario modeling basically it lets you simulate what if situations, hedging scenarios, and instantly see their financial impact across portfolios, categories, and cost drivers, right? So, imagine you're working in an automotive and EV battery company or an energy technology firm where nickel is a critical raw material with significant spend exposure. Okay, and let's say nickel prices have been extremely volatile lately, and your business is understandably worried, right? So the first question you probably want to answer as a business is, how much of my total business spend is actually exposed to nickel, because nickel is going into so many categories, so many products, whether it's finished or semi-finished product, right? Across my different business unit, regions, categories, etc. So let's see how it works actually. So you start by setting a threshold. Let's say you only want to analyze high spend cost driver that contributes to more than $100,000 in exposure. So once you set this, click show cost driver, right? The system will, automatically list down all the unique cost drivers across your portfolio, including the region, grade, and driver name, right? For each of these, it calculates the total base spend associated with that driver, right? For example, if nickel contributes 10% to product A or category A, 20% to another category, 30% to another category, and so on and so forth, the system will instantly calculate your total nickel exposure across the portfolio. So that means right away you have answered your first question, that what's my total exposure to nickel, which in this case is 13.3 million. Now, let's move to the next question, right? So, what happens to my portfolio if nickel prices suddenly go up by 10%, let's say due to a mine shutdown or supply squeeze, right? So, which categories would be most impacted in my entire procurement portfolio so that I can make the decisions faster and confidently? So let's see how we can achieve this through this platform. It's pretty easy. You basic under the simulation column, just enter the expected price change. For example, in nickel case, just put in, let's say nickel is expected to go up by 10%, and you can modify the multiple driver at once, right? You can simulate nickel, ferrochrome, labor, as per your wish. And then simply you just have to click the run simulation button. So at the back end, the system will immediately start calculating the impact of this particular simulation across your entire portfolio. So within few seconds, you will see two key result actions, right? The first one is your portfolio impact. So this section gives you a quick high level summary of how your total portfolio is affected. Basically the answer to your first question, which is, it gives you the base spend, your original spend before simulation, the new spend, which is the projected spend after simulation, and net impact in terms of dollar change as well as in terms of percentage change, right? So this gives you an instant answer to how much will this scenario change my overall portfolio budget. Now, with this information, business knows exactly, how much money is at risk. And if finance says, keep the nickel impact within the 6% range, you can easily test different hedge options and see which one gets you there, right? Showing exactly how much risk you have reduced and how much it remains, right? And of course, it works in both ways, right? So when nickel prices drop, you can actually simulate that scenarios, quantify the savings, and identify where to negotiate the reductions. The next section in this is the category impact analysis. Basically, it will give you a detailed breakdown of which categories are affected by this simulation, sorted from highest to the lowest impact. So this answers your second question, that with this simulation, okay, because I have 1,000 SKUs, 10,000 SKUs, which SKUs or categories are impacted by this simulation. So it gives you a crystal clear view of which areas carry the most risk, helping them prioritize, mitigate actions effectively, right? So this is about scenario modeling. So in summary, inflation watch, I would say, isn't just a dashboard, it's one unified ecosystem, which helps you plan better, negotiate stronger, and manage inflation with confidence. For CPOs, it gives control. They use inflation watch to get an eagle eye view across all their portfolios. For finance team, it gives clarity. They use it for budget accuracy. Most importantly, for category managers, it gives them confidence. They use it to strengthen the negotiations, right? So that's in very brief. I know we have rushed through this entire demo, but now that we have seen how the product works in real time, let me also walk you through, what this looks like in action with one of our most, what do you say, transformative success stories with Siemens Energy, right? So I would request Sunny, if you could please share your screen again and you know present the case study, please.
Sure, Hemant. You can stop sharing your screen
Yeah,
and let's put on the Siemens Energy case study. Here it is.
perfect. It's my okay. It's my yeah. Perfect. So, Siemens Energy, very quickly, just briefing, as you can see on your screen as well. It's Siemens Energy is a global leader, in energy technology, operating in an industry that depends heavily on complex supply chains and unpredictable commodities or raw materials, right? So 2 years ago, they realized that traditional approaches to cost transparency simply couldn't keep up, right? Rapid shift in commodity prices, supplier complexity, geopolitical disruptions, were becoming daily roadblocks, leading to multiple challenges, as you can see, on your screen. So Siemens Energy basically partnered with us, to co-create Inflation Watch, tailored to their business needs and built around the very capabilities you basically see on the, yeah, as you can see on your screen, right? So today for Siemens Energy, Inflation Watch, it's part of the strategic process. Over 2,000 professionals across procurement, finance, and legal teams are daily using it, relying on it for their negotiations and strategies. And the impact has been remarkable. They've cut contract creation time from more than 30 hours to 10 minutes. That's like over 180 times faster, right? They also tripled their spend under management from $500 million to $1 billion, $1.5 billion actually, without adding any extra headcount. And in one quarter alone, they unlocked over $1 million worth of savings in a single raw material category, which is massive, right? And with more than 500 active daily users, the platform continues to drive efficiencies, accuracy, and resilience, even for Siemens, even in an unpredictable global market scenario that we are kind of living in. So I hope this walkthrough, gave you a clear sense of how Inflation Watch can make your work simpler, smarter, and more impactful, right? Uh, so with that, I will hand it over to Sunny to, cover the remaining topics of the webinar.
Great. Thank you very much, Hemant. Thank you for the deep dive. And it's always great to see how these solutions come alive in practice and create that measurable impact. And if you would like to learn more about this case study, how Beroe and Siemens Energy partnered and what kind of impact is being realized at Siemens Energy, we'll share a case study with you after this webinar. So do watch out for that. And before we continue, let's hear from all of you once again through another quick poll. You should see it on your screen anytime now. Let's bring it up. Okay, so which capability gap is holding procurement back the most in navigating inflation successfully? Again, please take a few seconds to select the option that resonates the most with your organization. We'll close the poll in about 10 to 20 seconds. Translating market signals into actionable commercial strategy, ability to challenge supplier hikes with data, real-time visibility into cost drivers, joint forecasting and scenario planning with finance, talent and skill gap and analytics-led decision making, or others? And if you choose others, as always, please do share in the chat box what you had in mind. I can see a couple of options for the top position, which are coming up. The bar is still moving, so maybe just give it a couple of more seconds and then we can close the poll. All right, I think we can close the poll now. With 35% real-time visibility into cost drivers has emerged as the winner. So I think, when multi-tier data is often missing, teams end up reacting late and not being proactive, and it's a time for surprises for many people. Shailesh, let me come to you for this one. What are your thoughts on these results, and which of these gaps do you see the most when you work with organizations often?
Yeah, I think audience here has responded accurately. I think these are the two things, right, that I'm also hearing for a lot of client conversation. First and foremost being how we can get real-time visibility into how cost drivers are going to change and impact because of certain situations, along with what could happen from a market signal perspective, which needs actionable commercial strategy. I think we can discuss this more in detail in the next set of presentation and can provide more colors to the challenges here.
Great. Thanks, Shailesh, for breaking that down. Now that we have covered market inflation, let's look at contract inflation and how it translates into pricing. And as you listen to this section, think about your contract terms, escalation clauses, or pass-through mechanisms, and whatnot. And how clearly can you see the impact of those terms when inflation shifts? Shailesh will give us a clear framework next. Back to you, Shailesh.
So what happens, right, in a typical organization, you would have a lot of spend under contracts, which typically ranges between 40% to 60%, depending on the client maturity as well as industry. So how to calculate impact for that becomes very critical and pivotal. And typically these categories are the ones that are very critical to the organization and can impact and sway the procurement cost drastically. So what we do here is we kind of use the contract inputs, what pricing mechanisms as well as adjustment clauses that we've agreed with contract with suppliers. We use that mechanism. It could be related to currency. For example, if you are buying from a supplier in India where the cost or the currency has changed by 12% and it has depreciated. So is your supplier passing on that kind of deflation to you as an organization? Not how it is that pricing is linked to your benchmark indices, could be your kind of steel, could be your agriculture indices. What is the different level of pricing that you've agreed to pay your supplier depending on how you buy in a month or a given quarter? What could be the cappings and other mechanisms that can help you manage the cost most effectively, as well as what are the the escalation clauses? For example, in many cases, you would see you will connect that the price can change between a quarter within a quarter if a benchmark indices can shot up by 10%, right? Then supplier will have to pass on certain hikes. So all those calculations and clauses we can use and help you project what could your counter inflation look like for the given categories. Not only that, we also can compare with the market side of inflation so that you can compare that the counter inflation is giving you certain numbers, while from the market perspective, how does it fare and where are your contracts not performing better than the market inflation? And the next slide, if you can see, we have given a construct because in this case, unlike what my colleague covered earlier, which is more driven by the market shifts and the cost drivers, here we are essentially going to use your supplier cost breakdowns, price escalation clauses, contract link indices, and process that data using the AI and analytics layer and give you that same level of granular visibility, which can help you understand how the contract inflation is going to pan out in the next 18 months to 24 months. It again help you understand how the inflation could change between supplier A versus supplier B. It could also help you understand transparently over which of those mechanism is leading to higher costs and hence not helping you manage the inflation more effectively. I think with this, in the interest of time, we can move to a demo and in practice how we use it effectively to help firms. And I'm just sharing my screen, and Sunny, if you can please confirm once you see my screen.
Sure, Shailesh. Okay, I can see your screen now.
Okay, I'm just doing full screen. So what you can see that a lot of times what organizations need is a simple and clean view about how the inflation is going to impact. And as we are seeing impact of tariff, the client organizations are also trying to quantify the tariff impact along with the inflationary pressure. So if you look at the first view, you can see that here I can see for some categories, again, this is a sample, right? Because we can't show any client data. So it's a sample where we have loaded certain categories and we are showing that what was the budgeted spend at the start of the financial year, it was 3.4 billion, how it is changing because of the inflationary impact and tariff impact, and what is going to be the new project impact because of that. We can change this between what is the impact translating into at a net impact using both the things. And you can see the net impact in North America as a region is 89.7 million, while Asia is going to be 79.1 million. And you can even check this between what is the inflationary impact. So North America is leading to 41.3 million, while Asia is actually a deflationary scenario, which is bringing you 8.3 million reduction in prices. And if you want to just see the tariff view, you can click on this and you can see from a tariff perspective, Asia is bringing 87.4 million. It's a no-brainer because between US and Asia, China, India, everybody is attracting a higher tariff when you are importing goods from those locations to US today. While in North America, you can see 40.83 million impact. You can change this between subcategories that you're buying. So you can see, again, this is more sort of a few oil and gas categories. You can see seamless casing, ERW casing, AC induction motors, drilling services, how it's going to change. And again, you can play this between your inflationary view, net impact view, so that you can understand in real time how it's changing. And again, if I can click on cost drivers, you can see which of those cost drivers are leading to inflation. So it provides you visibility category, subcategory, region, so that the user, depending on what his or her role is, can see that view. And if you look at the top, it is basically talking about your market inflation, contract inflation. So if I select the contract part, this data gets updated and it will show you the contract inflation in the same view. And in the bottom, you can see how the impact is happening at category. This is a dynamic selection for reporting needs. Right now, it is giving a view at subcategory. I can just click on cost drivers. I can see the cost driver change. I can also select between category and even select the sourcing region. So it gives me a consolidated view. And you can see within AC motors, I'm buying this from Asia and North America, and what is the inflationary impact there. So this becomes your visible from that perspective. Moving forward, now obviously the audience would have questions. The users of this platform would also want to understand, okay, why we are saying that tariff impact is going to be certain. So we then give you details in the next page about why we are saying the tariff impact is going to be that much. So there will be two levels of tariff impact, as you would understand. In cases if you're buying within US and you're sourcing those products and buying those components directly from outside, there will be a tariff applicable which will be between US and other countries. In the current sample, you can see this, all of these are coming from China, and currently it attracts between 30% to 50% of tariffs. So there is a 37.3% impact because of that. Now, there will be cases where you are buying the same product, but from a US supplier, and you are buying it for US only. In that cases, there is no direct impact because you're just buying that, but because your supplier supply chain is dependent on other locations, there will be an indirect impact on that. And how will that be? So if you look at AC induction motors as an example, which consumes copper steel as a component, US government has put 50% tariff on those materials. So hence you would see 50% impact at a material level. So which we are able to quantify by breaking down the product into the value chain and then only applying the tariff at a material level wherever it is applicable. That impact itself is 12.4%. And you can see more details on tariff by just going down how the tariff has been between countries. You can see that. Quickly moving to the next view, where it then provides better visibility on cost drivers. So here you can see right now I'm showing this for integrated services. Let's look at ERW casings, and you can see the price evolution of ER casing and how it is changing across in the past year. You have seen both budgeted and actual price, what you budgeted at the start of financial years, how it has changed into actuals. And from the forecast point of view, you can see for next 18 months how the price is going to be, right, between contract market and budget. If you go down, you can see how the cost drivers have been changing. So for every month, if, for example, if I just look at January 2026, I can see carbon steel is adding $1.1220 of impact, while freight is adding 102 and zinc is adding 203, and total being 2007. And I can see what is the cost structure that has been followed. So there is a carbon steel conversion cost, freight and zinc and conversion cost is the standard cost, which typically is fixed when you agree a contract term with a supplier, and you will pay the inflation on other cost drivers, which is include carbon steel, freight, and zinc. And you can quantify and substantiate with the price trend of those at a driver level, which help you back up the assessment that why the price is going to change. And again, you can hover between this contract and market. I can click on that once again. If you click on market, this data gets revised, right? And now you are seeing the market impact of this. Now you see more drivers coming in compared to your contract. This contract, you will only see few drivers, which are typically linked with material and logistics. But here you see, we have broken down that product, which is ERW casing, in this case, into all granular materials and other cost components such as labor, logistics, machinery and testing, and others. And then we are providing the supporting cost structure as well as price trend forecast for all of those. Just to interest of what is the coverage, I think we are covering about 18,000 plus cost drivers across, which helps us easy for us to create that view. With this, I'm handing this back to Sunny for the remaining part of the session.
Great. Thank you very much, Shailesh. Great insights on the contract side, and that really actually completed the picture. Let's move into the Q&A segment now. I know that, I think we still have 10 minutes, so we can take a few questions. Let me just take a look at the Q&A box, and then I can either share a question, towards you, Hemant, or towards you, Shailesh. Just a second. All right, this seems interesting. So, Hemant, maybe you can answer this one. How is Inflation Watch different from the CPI or PPI based inflation reports my finance team already uses? Your thoughts, Hemant?
Sorry, Sunny. Can you repeat it once again? Sorry.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the question is, how is Inflation Watch different from the CPI or PPI based inflation reports my finance team already uses?
One second. I'm really sorry. My network is.
Can I answer that? Is that
Yeah.
okay, Sunny?
Yes, Shailesh, if
Yeah.
you can take this one, yes.
Yeah, so the Inflation Watch, right, provides dynamic connections of cost structures and price drivers, which any user at its end can change, right, in real time. So you can not only simulate, right, and then you can create an inflation review. As Hemant showed in the earlier part of presentation, you can also simulate scenarios basis the tariff impact, contract impact, as well as do the sensitivity analysis by kind of inputting any expected change at a cost driver level.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Shailesh, for that. Uh, let's pick this question, and Shailesh, you can also answer this one, I think. What percentage of spend Beroe can cover under budgeting and inflation solution?
Great question, Sunny. So technically, we can cover the entire spend because there will be 40 to 60% of spend linked to your contracts, which we can use your supplier contracts and other details, put this on our platform and give you that view. For the remaining 40%, 50%, which is not linked to contracts, we can cover from a market inflation point of view. There may be a need, right, to use some of your data subscription because though Beroe has an extensive data coverage, covering about 7,800 plus cost structures as well as 18,000 plus price drivers at a commodity level. We do not have everything, and that can where we can use your data subscription to bring that view on inflation.
Great. Thank you, Shailesh. And I think that also answers one of the other questions or comments that, how we can increase coverage of some of the cost structures or categories. Hemant, can you hear me now? Am I audible? You're on mute. I cannot hear you. Can
Yes,
you hear me
yes.
now?
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. Then let's take this question. Hemant, maybe you can answer this one. When inflation drivers move in opposite directions, say crude drops but logistics spikes, how does the platform Inflation Watch help me build a balanced negotiation narrative?
Right. So basically, as we saw during the inflation summary view, when we saw the category impact level breakdown. So basically, Inflation Watch takes into account the corresponding weightages or the contribution of each of the cost drivers that it contributes to a particular category. And accordingly, it will give you the net impact, all the cost drivers cumulatively are having on that particular category to prep you for the supplier discussions at a category level as well as at the cost driver levels.
And just to
Okay,
add,
great.
Hemant, then thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
So in this case, I would assume that bunker fuel would have gone down, but the remaining cost would have remained same. So what could happen is that we can provide you view if something else has changed in terms of cost elements, which you can use for your effective negotiation.
That's a good addition, Shailesh. Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you, Hemant, for that. Uh, let's pick this one, and Shailesh, maybe you can take this one. Uh, can Beroe use contact inputs and escalation clauses to capture inflation?
Absolutely. I think that's what I try to show within the contract versus markets. So market inflation would come essentially via Inflation Watch, our product, which captures everything dynamically and provides a refresh of data on a monthly basis. While contract, we will use your inputs from contracts, use automation and do the scripting and enable to create a contract inflation view. And we can even feed in your duration changes. For example, some categories, the price could revise on a quarterly basis, while some could be revised on a once in 6 month basis. So all that can be configured along with other price escalation and adjustment clauses.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Let's take this one. Our suppliers don't share their cost structures. So, how can we use your cost driver insights confidently? Hemant, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So we understand, right? So suppliers don't necessarily share it proactively, right? So what we have done in Inflation Watches, we have created some Inflation Watch basically host a library of pre-built cost structures, which are industry standard cost structures validated by analysts and benchmarked, across thousands of data points. So we understand and appreciate your supplier's exact cost structure may vary, but market facing drivers, more or less like crude oil, PET, copper, depending on the categories, are kind of universal, right? So the platform solves 80% of the negotiation equation even without the supplier disclosure in that sense.
Perfect. Thank you for that. This next question is, how can organizations meet their inflation reporting requirements using Beroe's tool? Shailesh, would you want to pick this one?
Yeah. So we have two ways to address reporting requirements. One which comes as a standard feature from Inflation Watch, which Hemant covered in the earlier part of the webinar, where it provides view by organization hierarchy, looking at top inflation deflation categories. Also, what we have seen, right, in the mature organization that they would want reporting at a different level, could be executive reporting, could be reporting for finance and procurement function. So we support that via Power BI or a Tableau report, which is 100% customizable by what the client wants to see and can provide very granular level details as well as other cost inputs that the organization wants to see.
All right, great. Let's take this last question. And Shailesh, since you're already here, let's, answer this one too. Can Beroe cover inflation at a supplier and commodity level to understand the underlying factors? What do you think, Shailesh?
Absolutely. So for any product that you are buying, whether it's a transformer, whether it's a agro commodity or some or any other engineering equipment, we can cover inflation by supplier, different supplier, even you changing that by country location, right? For example, that supplier maybe is providing you those materials, especially from a US, from a Spain, from other geographies. That can also be done, and then providing that connecting with the material, how it's going to impact at a material level.
All right, great, great. Thank you, Shailesh. We're at the top of the hour now, so unfortunately, we won't be able to take other questions, but we will follow up with you. And this brings us to the end of the webinar. A big thank you to you, Shailesh and Hemant, for sharing your insights today, and to our wonderful audience for being here. I hope you found the session useful. As next steps, you could have you can scan the QR code that is on the screen right now to book a demo of our inflation solution. We'll be happy to connect with you. Also, we'll be sharing the session recording and additional resources with you shortly, so please watch out for those. Thank you once again for joining us, and we hope to see you in our next session. Stay well and stay ahead. Thank you.